A general description of the state of the body found in a vacant lot in Los Angeles probably would have been disturbing to the average American when it was discovered back in 1947. Most newspaper accounts limit the descriptions to the use of words like mutilated and butchered without adding details. Nowadays, such details might just ruffle a bit, but it's not anything novel. Let's see. Elizabethshort was found with her head beaten, her cheeks slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, her stomach slashed. Actually, her entire body had been slashed at, chunks of flesh were missing. She'd been cut in half at the waist. Things had been inserted into her, but not left there. The body was pale, the blood had drained, according to the autopsy, from the cuts to her cheeks, cuts which were also cited along with the blows to her head as a contributing factor to her death. Her lower body was laid carefully about a foot away from where it had once been attached to her torso. Her arms had been positioned above her head with the elbows bent into right angles. Her legs on that severed lower body had been spread apart. The story of the unsolved murder of Elizabethshort is pretty much like any unsolved murder mystery. We've got the body. There are clues scattered here and there, footprints, tire marks, ex-boyfriends, a confessed murderer, a media circus, a purse, a shoe, and a dress book with suspicious names. The story has been related to us over and again. Not interested in retelling that story. The murderer was never found, but he existed. He just got away with it. How? Well, a lot of murders go unsolved. It seems like in 2022, 47% of homicides went unsolved in the United States, so answering the question, how, wasn't very interesting, was it? This person got away with murder just because statistically he had almost a coin throw's chance of getting away with murder. He only needed to be careful. Which led me to attempt to draw up the kind of man with the advantages of his personal circumstances, combined with a careful mindset about the murder. Of course, as I began to develop this character, I had to consider his motivations, what he wanted from committing the crime. Another question arises. Why? And that's where the storytelling began to get interesting for me. The entire why involved, the what does he want that was drilled into me during my university theatrical formation, both as an actor and a director. That was a difficult question to answer. I tried to avoid it years ago at university, directing Henrikibsen's Ghosts. In Ghosts, we've got a standard 19th century Norwegian melodrama, full of drama, guilt, resentment, secret misbehavior, not so secret misbehavior, near incestuous behavior. A widow is preparing the inauguration of an orphanage in the name of her husband, 10 years dead. Her husband, who sired a young girl, not the widow's daughter, who now serves in the household at the widow's pleasure. The widow's son, Oswald, who has taken a shine to that young servant. Oswald, who is ill, probably going mad because of a venereal disease inherited from his father. Oh yes, the straight-laced pastor who sees scandal and sin in everything anyone else does. Typical Norwegian melodrama. Not much new. My faculty advisor for the project was after me about the whole I want thing. The thrust of the directing and acting program at my university was methodic, detailed, and one could not avoid the I want, the explanation of the motivation behind each and every line and action of each and every character of the play. I wanted out of that trap. In my essay on character, I listed the obvious I wants, yet I added and focused on each personality's I fear. Not sure if it worked. I got a good grade on the direction, Though reading through the essays I presented to my advisor, I'm surprised my grade wasn't cut because of the poor writing therein. No spell check in 1982. So, with Cut Flowers, I was again in the boat of identifying the motivation of a character in a drama I was creating. And again, the rebel in me stood up, confronted me, told me that I wasn't going to be able to find a because that would satisfy that why. There was no good reason for anyone to do that to Elizabethshort, no matter who Elizabethshort had been, no matter who her killer was. And that lack of because became the core of the character Jeff. Jeff is the first to ask why. He's also the first not to find an answer, though he asks himself the question over and again as we observe him as he goes through his day. And because he had no because of his general lack of personal motivation, he became that uninteresting man, that anonymous accountant in an uninteresting office surrounded by uninteresting co-workers. He has an uninteresting wife and uninteresting life. None of that lack of interest justifies what he has done, nor does he pretend that it does. He lives the kind of life where motivation doesn't come from the interior, it is imposed, like in Ibsen's universe of discourse, from the outside. Jeff is aware of a quirk in his personality, though. Each time he questions himself, or maybe the universe, about motivation, it sprouts from a personal negative reaction to someone else entering his sphere of action. Everyone he must relate to, perhaps with the exception of his wife, seems to be intruding on this sphere. He observes these outside actors, reduces them to superficial caricatures, allows his imagination to develop remedies to the molestations those caricatures cause him. Once he has created the image of what he might do to any of them, he stops himself, realizing that there is no reason to do such a thing to that person. There is no because for the why. As Ibsen couched his characters' conflicts and drama in the inevitable sense of duty that the culture imposed, Jeff had all conflict and drama removed from his life by the duty that his particular culture has imposed upon him. He is the everyman who is married, has gone to work, has given in to the norms, the habits, the Groundhog Day existence. He is unconcerned that his chosen hobby is without drama or conflict, just like the rest of his life. It doesn't matter if that hobby was a one-time event or was a series that ended with Elizabeth. Shall I suggest that there are dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of Jeffs walking about, hypnotized by their perceived cultural duties, accepting the horrors simply because they so conveniently fit into the numbness of life, the dictated routine of doing the same thing every day without knowing why? Shall I then suggest that each of us take a moment and do the homework my university advisor noted again and again on my essay on character motivation for Ghosts? Quote, "A simple moral judgment on the character limits your creativity in helping the actor interpret him. Analyze the whole character from his own viewpoint. Why does he want to do certain things? He does succeed in his action, doesn't he? He is proved correct in his perception. Look more carefully for subtle changes in perception, in behavior, in attitude. Characters are dynamic, living. Avoid a view of them as static unless they are merely physical presences." Have we all turned into mere physical presences, then? Is that how Jeff considered Elizabeth? Is that how we perceive one another? I'm beginning to feel that such is so. Thanks for having a listen to my thoughts. Remember, check the description for links to transcripts of this and the podcast episode, Cut Flowers, on You're Listening to Radio Revel in the Keyhole Witness series. And please remember to
listen, like, subscribe, and share.
Cheers. And to the podcast. No.